what Fulford had to say. Now I'm going to turn to another news report that spoke about the strange lights and clouds that appeared in China before the earthquake.
This is the sky about a half hour before the earthquake in China. It's called earthquake lights. And that's something that looks similar to the northern lights, and it's something that
looks similar to the northern lights. What are the northern lights? They are the aurora. And what is HAARP? It is an aurora research program.
This happened before other earthquakes, but no one knows what it is, what causes it. It's being studied to see if it could be some kind of warning sign that could be used to predict big earthquakes. But look at that. Nobody knows what causes that.
That's fascinating.
And we've seen reports of those for decades, really. But no one's actually caught it on tape until just now. That was 30 minutes before that major earthquake in China last week.
So what I find interesting that this reporter mentioned is that reports of these sort of lights in the sky before large earthquakes have been reported for the last few decades. But hold on. If you go to the USGS website, you can clearly see that earthquakes have been closely monitored and tracked since 1900. They have charts and everything. So why is it that scientists and, normal civilians like us never noted and talked about these strange lights in the sky 100 years ago or 150 years ago? Why is it only in the last few decades? Last few decades could be 20, 30 years. Well, here's an answer to that. This is a website which goes over the timeline from when the idea of HAARP was first introduced by the Department of Defense and the military, and it gives a very detailed timeline as to the steps that were taken, dates, and the years. And look right here. The initial idea of HAARP was proposed on the 11th of August 1987. So obviously they must have been doing some sort of testing with the technology, and that was obviously causing the strange lighting in the skies before the earthquakes would hit. At the time they probably didn't realize what kind of technology they were dealing with, so accidental triggers were obviously noted. Going down the screen, but of course they're not going to admit that they sent off those triggers. You'll see here what happened in 1990 and the whole process, but the whole project was completed in 2006. So here's the rest of the article if you guys wish to read it. I'm just going to scroll down through the whole thing. And it's very detailed. I think I already passed the part where they talk about the timeline, but all the information of the progress of the project over the last couple decades is clearly stated in this article here. And you can find that at rents.com. So obviously, if HAARP really is to blame for, these last large earthquakes that we've been experiencing, then that means that they were obviously planned, and they were strategically planned to be at a certain time so that they could divert the attention to something else, like Comet Elenin. That's why they made the movie so detailed, to make it so obvious, like, aha, it's the comet, it's the government trying to give us information through a movie. But no, I believe that's what they want us to believe. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the Illuminati cards, but the Illuminati cards came out in 1995, and it's very strange that it seems like they have predicted some of the big disasters that we have experienced in the last 10 years. This is one of the cards right here, and look, it looks like it is a picture of the Twin Towers, 9/11 getting hit. I mean, doesn't that look like a bomb or something going through the tower right here? I mean, how did they know that in 1995? Another card shows the Pentagon being on fire. Something else to wonder about. How did they know this back then? Another card here which stands out the most to me is the one called Combined Disasters. In this card, don't these people seem to be dressed in, the sort of Japanese clothing that they used to wear? And there's a tower falling over, so it looks like it must be a huge earthquake or something happening. But look at the time on the clock. There's a hand pointing at the 3 and a hand pointing at the 11. Doesn't that also mean March 11th? So at the time of March 11th, this card is saying a huge disaster is going to happen. Now keep in mind that the Illuminati card deck does consist of many other cards, but I'm just going to go through a few more that stand out to me. One of them shows the oil spill, and there's a picture of a duck covered in oil, and just like what we had recently, the oil spill, and that caused pretty much a big disaster in the Gulf of Mexico. There's another card highlighting Japan. Another card that says Earthquake Projector. So, HAARP triggering earthquakes. Tidal waves, it's warning us of huge waves engulfing coastal cities. And it's also warning us of nuclear accidents to come. And here's 3 more cards. This one says Goal, Kill for Peace. Goal, Population Reduction. This could be a reason for these attacks. And the last card here saying World War III, with the title being New World Order. Have you guys heard of the Denver airport? This New World Order phrase seems to be appearing quite a bit these last 5 years. And just want to point out quickly, look at this face appearing in the smoke coming out of these tall towers in a downtown city area. Doesn't that sort of resemble the face that appeared in the smoke during 9/11? So, considering that these cards came out in 1995, it really makes us wonder, are these actually all predictions of the future? And if they are, doesn't that mean that all of these big earthquakes like March 11th and other disasters were orchestrated? So a lot of us are obviously probably asking, but why would the United States want to do this? If this all really is true, why would they want to do this? Well, my idea is the States is in a lot of debt right now. Looking at the total amount of exports from North America to other countries, in the last 10 years, we've been on the decline. And the reason why is because offshore competition is just too big to compete with. I mean, China, Japan, India are fast-growing countries right now, and it's hard for us to compete with their prices. The States owes China $80 trillion. And I found this article sort of interesting from the European Union Times, and it states that the Japanese government paid 60 trillion yen to stop more HAARP attacks. So 60 trillion yen would be equivalent to about $60 trillion. $60 billion Canadian American. And what this article says is that pretty much immediately after Japan was attacked, the Japanese Prime Minister Naoto Kan handed over to the Federal Reserve Board the 60 trillion yen to immediately stop the attacks with HAARP to avoid nuclear terror. And this is according to a Japanese security police source. So I haven't personally seen any backup regarding this, but my gut tells me that it sort of makes sense, and I believe that it happened. And just to point out one more time to you guys about the evidence in the ionosphere, it states here in another sign that this was a deliberate attack, Experts at the University of Tokyo, as well as in Italy, detected HAARP signals focused on Fukushima in the hours before the earthquake and tsunami struck. The same signals have since been detected focused on Mount Fuji, where the groundwater is heating up. In addition, over 5 different people have contacted this writer since the earthquakes to warn us that Japan was about to sink into the ocean. So I just wanted to go over some more backup of people who detected the levels in the ionosphere fluctuating during that time. So the U.S. military has definitely now perfected their use of weather control. In comparison to 1966, when they initially tried using this strategy in the battlefield, obviously not using HAARP, what they used was a technique called cloud seeding, and what that would do is airplanes would drop silver iodide over the lands that they wanted heavy rainfall to occur over, because silver iodide would cause the water in the atmosphere to condense and fall as rain droplets quicker, and they wanted to do this to slow down the enemy.
Vietnamese, and it was an important strategic objective for the United States and our ally South Vietnam to try to interdict that supply line to cut off those supplies to the enemy.
Operation Popeye's objectives are to soften road surfaces on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, cause landslides along roadways, and wash out river crossings.
The military had their own catchphrase as a result of this program, and it was "make mud, not war."
They flew over 2,600 missions from a period of 1966 to 1972, and it's believed that it did exacerbate the amount of rainfall and probably extended the monsoon season by 30 to 45 days.
So there you have it. The military already tried to use this technology in 1966 to help them out in the battlefield. So what makes you think that they wouldn't try to use it again in the future or as a defense method, but in a more perfected way? You saw documents from the Department of Defense, stating that the technology now exists to cause earthquakes and set off volcanoes. So I just want to stress that the whole point that I made this video is just to show all the information of HAARP and to then contrast it with this comet Elenin. I just want to stress that I think it was too publicized in the media through that movie Deep Impact. There was too much similarities. It's like when someone's telling a lie and they just talk too much, or they stress too many facial expressions, and you can just tell something's up or they're lying. It's the same as that movie. It was overdone through the media, and I think it was just to convince everybody that, hey, this is what's going on. It's the comet causing these earthquakes. And even on March 11th, when the earthquake did happen, what movie came out? Battle LA, which is about destruction of the earth from these aliens coming in the sky. I just think it was a way that the government tried to divert our attention from the use of HAARP. And I just want to play this last clip over here, and this pretty much says it all.
In the future, he who controls the weather will probably control the earth.
So I guess we'll see on September 30th when this comet makes its closest path to Earth. Some people are calling it a brown dwarf, but believe me, if it was a brown dwarf being so extremely massive, even though they say we wouldn't be able to see it because they're dim, we would definitely notice a lot more differences going on in our solar system, and I'm pretty sure we'll be able to know by then just how massive in size this comet really is. So everybody, thank you for watching. This is Jesby on Wednesday, August 25th, 2011.